Well, death is obviously the big one. It's the D word that nobody wants to talk about. But obviously it has a completely different role in the teaching of the Buddha, because one of the things the Buddha said, it's a blessing to see a corpse. It's a blessing to see a rotting corpse. If you tell that to an ordinary person, they probably think you're nuts. But, you know, the mind that has already achieved, you know, a sense of peace, and that has had some insight into the fact that, hey, this body is impermanent, and for that mind to be able to actually contemplate death can have very, very profound effects. And in fact, most of the teachers of the Forest tradition, in fact probably all of them, would say that the full acceptance of death, you know, seen with deep insight, is enough to attain the first level of enlightenment, become a stream enterer. So the contemplation of death has a very, very important role in the Buddha's teaching, and traditionally, however, mostly taught to monks. In my opinion, sometimes unfortunately so, because not just monks die, but all people die. And I've seen so many people sorrow and lament and suffer over the death of their loved ones or their own impending death, that I think it would be much more healthy if people actually started to contemplate their own death, because it's not in a Buddhist way, it's not such a bad thing. Birth is much worse than death, because, you know, at least at death you've got it all behind you. With birth you still have it all in front of you. So, well, also obviously important never lose your sense of humor when you contemplate even such a thing as death. But at the same time, you know, just looking at the resistance that the mind would come up with. For myself, I still find it very difficult, or the mind will still resist the contemplation of death. In a shallow way, it will very quickly come to the conclusion, yes, I'm going to die. But on a very deep level, I've only ever had very few experiences where the mind would get to the point where the impending death was something that was absolutely clear, totally real, something that there was no more doubt, and at that point the mind was able to let go and actually become peaceful. So I would actually encourage people to contemplate that, because in Buddhism, after all, we're after the mind, we're not after the body. It's the mind that you know, is reborn, as it were. We don't take the body anywhere, but we take our mental components with us when we die. And so looking after the mind presupposes a very, very profound understanding of the impermanent and nature of the body.